I look really
Hello,
drugged
ladies
up.
and gentlemen. He's like a mental. It's Hotfix. It's Hotfix. Our video game podcast. What is it? Laser focused. Come on, give us a.
No, it's your turn this week.
No,
Screw you.
you invented
You
it.
got to put heart into it.
You
I
invented
invented it, therefore I own the rights to it, and therefore I license it out to you.
Yeah, but what if you pull a Nintendo and you do a copyright claim on my hands?
Maybe I will. Maybe
I don't trust you. I don't trust you.
I'm not going to tell you though. Yeah, so
I don't trust you at all. Pew-pew. Okay, we're doing that. Yeah, that's.
I did it. I don't know. I was
the ultimate action hero pose.
I was running out of extension. I was like, oh god, I'm gonna snap. But then, okay. Yeah. So the start of Hotfix. Welcome, hello. I have some names to shout out and say thank you for the support you do give us on Patreon. Mr. Kirioff, I'll let you do the how to support us thingy before I shout the names out because I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, I believe.
So
but
if you want to,
because I'm getting hyped up on.
I say you're getting hyped. Opal fruits, by
Opal fruit.
Opal fruit.
Yeah. Do you call Snickers marathons as well?
No, well, I never liked marathons or whatever, or Snickers or whatever they were called, so I didn't care. I wasn't bothered.
You call Mars bars Mars bars?
Well, that's what they are.
Yeah.
Do you remember the special edition dark chocolate Mars bars?
What? No, I don't eat Mars bars.
Oh my god, they were delicious.
I can't even.
They were amazing.
I fancy a Mars bar now. I bet they're fucking miniature though. Everything's got miniature.
Yeah, they're smaller.
These
They're
days.
smaller. They used to be like that long. Now they're like that long. It's pathetic. Double deckers though, still the same size. And double deckers are quality.
The nugget shit inside.
Yeah. Oh, I want double decker now. Anyway, Hotfix.
You used to have them at the vending machines at school, but I bet you don't even have vending machines at school anymore, do you? Because you probably can't let the kids have chocolate bars and whatever and cans of Coke at the vending machine.
Given how often people at my school would like break open the vending machine to get to the delicious goods inside, and how far society has fallen since then, they probably have to take them out because they're just being vandalised constantly. Because as we all know, kids are little shits. So
somebody hid a bag of weed. Somebody hid a bag of weed in the vending machine at my school.
In the vending machine? What was it like? Someone got a packet of Walkers ready salted, and then the next thing in the little loop was a bag of weed.
What happened was,
I'll pay 50p for that.
The police came round, like doing this, like showing off the sniffer dog, just going like, "Oh, don't do drugs; they're bad for you." But a guy had some drugs on him, so he threw them into the vending machine, opened the tray and just chucked them in. So somebody probably bought like some Umbongo, and there was like a little fucking added bonus with it.
Umbongo's making a resurgence around it, even though I don't think you can even get it anymore.
I'm going to be eating sweets as well, so screw you, chat.
There's no chat here.
Anybody? Well, there is in my brain. You probably can't hear me chew it anyway. So
I can hear the unwrapping, but I'm going to.
Yeah, but that's quite audible, isn't it, sir?
Okay, let's. No, there's no noise. So for the people listening, that's the not sound of Stylosa chewing an opal fruit. So there you go. Just have that in your head, in your mind. Also, he chews with his mouth open. That's a lie. But if you're only listening to it or watching it, you wouldn't know that. Hotfix. Back to Hotfix. It's our laser-focused video game discussion show, which is why we've just spent ages talking about opal fruits, Mars bars, marathons, and vending machines, and weed. If you want to support Hotfix, then we do appreciate support, and you can do it by clicking the link that's up there in that corner, or down there in the description. You have an option. You can click either. They both lead to the same place. If you do choose to support Hotfix, which we really appreciate because it does literally keep the show running, then you will get a shout out on the next Hotfix, which Mr. Stylos will do for you right now.
Okay, so Mr. Andreas Sweder. That is a man's name, right? Thank you for the support. I don't know.
And we apologise if it's not.
And Mr. Matt Green. In fact, Matt Green, thank you for the support. I've noticed there's a message from Andreas. He says, "I'm not sure where the appropriate leave a comment spot is, but I'll give it a go anyways. I've been enjoying this marvellous podcast for about a year now, and I apologise for not contributing to it before today. I had to get a job and my work situation under control. Keep it up. Keep loving your work." Beautiful.
Much appreciated. Beautiful. Don't feel bad for not supporting before this point if you are financially incapable of doing so. That's
watching the show is supporting enough. But if you love it so much and you are in a position financially to give it a bit of a bump, even $1 a month really helps a shitload. Honestly, guys, a shitload.
It really does. So we're going to go straight into this. We've got a few big topics, I think, and we've got some kind of smaller ones. But let's start with. I think this is becoming like almost like a pet peeve thing with us at the moment, which is World of Warcraft. So I'm going to switch over to the desktop, and Here we are. Who's the I say the article from Eurogamer. There's no actual information other than it's going to be announced. So they've put a bit of speculation in there. But essentially, the story is that a new World of Warcraft expansion is going to be revealed next week, as it says up here. And Blizzard will announce a new World of Warcraft expansion next week. A WoW event at Gamescom will be streamed on Thursday, the 6th of August at 5 PM UK time. That's all we have for now. Now, I'm going to switch over to a Reddit link that Starlos sent before the show, which I hadn't actually seen until just now. And it lists essentially, like, I think this is what they did, isn't it, for Warlords of Draenor. Draenor sounds better. It sounds way better. And like, this is what they...
It is Draenor. I think it is Draenor. Draenor is like a fucking drain cleaning product.
Yeah.
Draenor.
People have corrected us in the past, though,
Warlords
saying it's
Draenor.
Draenor. But Draenor sounds
Fuck
way better.
knows, Wad. And Wad sounds terrible.
Oh, yeah. A wad of phlegm.
Phlegm Wad.
Oh, no. What a terrible image. So this is essentially...
Stop saying essentially.
Oh,
I'm
so
here to
doing
correct
that.
you today.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
all in all, essentially.
I haven't said that for ages. And you've set me off for saying chat. So this is basically... Is this what they've done already? From this comment, it's like... They've not done much. When Warlords of Draenor was released, they had very little content. When you look at... We did another... In Hotfix before, we showed kind of all the features that were in Warlords. And then, you compare it to previous expansions. And it's just not very good. Like, there wasn't a lot of features.
Well,
this guy talks about... talks about Ashran and garrisons and stuff. I mean, garrisons was the big thing for Warlords, wasn't it? It was the, I guess the drawing point.
No, I don't think it was. No, okay. So this is where I am with this game. Warlords of Draenor, WOD, gets announced, and I made a video, and it was very speculative, and it was like, this could be the best WoW expansion ever, because on the face of it, it was a genius idea to bring people back into the fold. People who enjoyed the, let's say, glory years of the lore, right, before the Lich King. So if you played Warcraft 2, or you played Warcraft, or even hell, some of it's Warcraft 3-ish, I guess. There are, like, you go back, you see the Warlords, you see the old Orcs, you see, like, Hellscream and all of that stuff. These are, like, iconic figures who didn't really get any kind of camera time in World of Warcraft. It was all about the Lich King, wasn't it? And then it was just, let's invent a baddie and Cataclysm, and then let's have pandas, and then let's try and fix the lore. So on the face of it, pretty impressive. I thought, oh god, this is going to be impressive. The game launched, it had a great cinematic, which they always do, Blizzard games, that you can't really base that on anything, but it was a fantastic cinematic. You had Manoroth, you had Hellscream getting wasted by Manoroth getting wasted by Hellscream, and Hellscream killing him in like a fashion which is extremely similar to the way he died in Warcraft 3. So everybody's like, holy shit, because that's like one of the iconic cinematics Blizzard have ever made, where you've got Thrall and you've got Garrosh, and is it Garrosh? I always get confused now.
No,
it's too many of them. It's not Garrosh, that's his son. It's no.
I always want to say Grimnar, but it's not. I've just made that name up.
That's Warhammer Grimnar.
Yeah, it is. Isn't it? I'm getting my IPs confused.
It ain't Garrosh. Where's his Grom? That's it. Grom.
So
Grom's his dad, and you've got Thrall and you've got Grom, and they fight Manoroth, and Thrall gets his head kicked in, and he's on the floor, basically about to die. And Grom just runs up to him with his fucking axe with whatever the hell it's called, Gore Howl, and rabs it into him and just kills him. It's like, yeah. So the trailer was like, it was great. Anyway, the marketing was ridiculous. It was like, holy shit, this is what we want. I wanted to play WoW again. Last time I played WoW was about 2008 or something. And I was like, holy shit, I really want to play it. You were the same. Loads of people were the same. The game launched. The fucking sales were ridiculous. The game went way over 10 million subs again. It's like, holy shit, they've done it. They've done what they need to do. A week later, I just stopped playing the game. I remember me and you, I can't even remember the name of the zone that we were in, but because we were on a PvP server, and we were just ganking people who were like lower level dribblers, like level, what is it? We were like level 100 and they were like 96 or 7 or something. We were just killing them for the sake of it. It was pretty funny. It was the area around Shatrath, whatever that's called, in Draenor. But we just stopped playing because we've gone over all of our problems we had with the game in other hotfixes, so I'm not going to go over them again. We left the game, right? At that point, we'd left because there wasn't enough content in the game. There wasn't enough dungeons. There wasn't enough varied loot from the dungeons. The garrisons were boring.
Yeah.
Garrisons are a big issue, which I do really want to get onto in a minute. In fact, this guy sums them up pretty well on
Yeah, he
Reddit.
does.
Then a couple of months ago, well, it released in November. Don't forget. So this is like really quick. I mean, I know Blizzard have said they want to be on a yearly expansion cycle now. Obviously, this has problems, doesn't it? Because expansions in the past, like let's look at Mr. Pandaria. I think that had 3 patches. Although, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but it definitely had more than one major patch. Because when they patch the game, a big event happens. There's loads of raids and fucking loads of content gets added to the game. If suddenly you could buy an expansion for 30 quid that gave you 3 of these major patches over like an 18-month period or something, and now suddenly you're going to be buying an expansion that only gives you 1 and it's replaced in a year, you're paying them more money for arguably less content if you look at it that way. But there are pros and cons to this. Mr. Pandaria went on for too long. Like, way too long. And I did not want to play the game at all then.
Well, there was a...
Warlords comes out, I want to play the game.
There was a colossal gap between, like, the last major patch for Mists of Pandaria and
I think that was the 18 months I'm talking about. I'm sure it was ridiculous.
I think it was around 18 months. It was a huge amount of time for an MMO to go without additional content. I mean, the whole point of an MMO is, you know, once you've reached the level cap, it's grinding for gear. It's basically getting all the best gear for your character. We said
before, why don't they pump content out? I don't understand. Like, apparently their team now is the biggest it's ever been for World of Warcraft, the development team. So why are they not just throwing out content? You can be cynical and say, oh, okay, this is obviously the Activision influence, isn't it? Because Activision want an expansion every year, just like they do with Call of Duty, a new game every year, sales, loads of sales. People are getting what they want. Warcraft's in a strange situation because to me this seems too quick. I don't even play the game, but it seems too quick. I know there's hardly any content in the game really. If you get to level 100, you've only got a couple of raids and then that's it. It's like what are you?
But the thing is,
it's weird. It's really weird.
Depending on how badly they're losing players, it could be a simple fact of, you know, we got this massive boost from Warlords. Numbers dropped off hugely towards the end of Mists of Pandaria because there was nothing to do. There was no content. We've released Warlords of Draenor. It brought everyone back. Everyone's played the game. They're bored. They're done already. There's nothing to do. We haven't given them enough content to actually keep them playing. So the sub numbers are going down. The number of people playing are going down. The number of transactions for stuff like crazy mounts and pets and stuff. You know, as player numbers go down, those sales will go down as well. So maybe it's a case of they're just kind of looking at it going, if we're not careful, we're going to be straight back to where we were with Mr. Pandaria. You know, we've got to push something out, but we don't want to push it out for free. I'm pretty sure
it's worse. I think it's worse now, bloke. I think on paper, this is like the worst expansion, which is weird.
It should have been
the best.
It should be the best. Yeah, it should be the best. Well, as you know, I say that. I still think Wrath was the best, and I think Wrath will always be the best. But it should have been close too. Cataclysm was not like...
I'm not sure. Right, so here's my point of view. Warlords made me get really hyped. I wasn't really that hyped for Lich King. It got better as it went on. But I wasn't like, holy shit, I want to play this game. And if Blizzard had provided a proper pipeline of content to me and didn't give me a shit garrison, which fuck it, I'm going to hate on the garrisons now.
Yeah.
The game is an MMO, yeah? Right, let's go off on a crazy tangent. EverQuest 2 have released a time lock server, right? So this is basically, if you're a WoW player, it will be like Blizzard releasing a vanilla WoW server. Back to day one, back to when the game started. I want to play that. I'm not going to play it in any capacity, but I want to mess around on it. That game... in that state was a very social game, and it was up until I left the game. But there was a lot of people about. There were hubs of people to meet up in. There were 2 major cities. You can see where the similarities are coming into World of Warcraft. You've got Orgrimmar, you've got Stormwind, and then you had, well, let's focus on WoW. The EverQuest example was a bit shit, but you focus on Dalaran, Wrath of the Lich King.
Yeah,
that is the ideal thing that they should always have in every expansion. Look at Shatrath. Shatrath was okay. I never really liked Shatrath. It was too big. Dalaran was a great city. The way it was designed was really good. It felt like there was people all walking around the city. There was Alliance, there was Horde. That's great. That is really good. And then you go to... I know that there was supposed to be a city in Warlords, but they cut it. I forget what it was called. But there was supposed to be something. I don't know if we can find that.
There is... There's a couple of things here that they talk about where at the bottom of this post from Eerie Wow, who he outlined essentially what appeared in Warlords of Draenor. At the bottom, it says there's a place called Farallon. You know it as Netherstorm. A lot of people are looking forward to seeing how Netherstorm looked before Draenor got ripped apart, but the content got scrapped. For some reason in the back of my head, I feel like it was something around there, but I don't know whether I've just invented that or whether that
I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be something. So they've cut content, which again is another argument. Like if they're cutting content out, they're just going to throw this content in and just repackage it for a new expansion, whatever. But the garrisons are a major issue because you go back to Wrath, we go back to any expansion. Okay, let's not go back to Mr. Pandaria because I don't have much experience with that. But Cataclysm I played for a little bit. Let's just go back to Wrath. Fuck it. I would mine. I'd go around, I'd get my mining skill up. I'd quite enjoy spending an hour relaxing, flying around mining. I know I could sell the product and I'd make money, and that was fine. And there was a market, an actual viable market.
Yeah.
Garrisons come along, and all of a sudden, any kind of gathering profession is worth shit because you just got it all in your garrison, and you just spend gold and you just get it. So then that destroys the market. The way you get the special reagents for like the crazy silver super bars or whatever for blacksmithing is you give the reagent, like the ingredients for them, to a guy in your garrison, and he makes them, but it's like come back in a few hours kind of thing. It's basically a mobile game, with time restricted shit. You can only make so many a day, which is crap because I don't think you can sell them because I'm pretty sure they were soulbound, which is stupid. Again, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they are. They may have changed. I say I might be wrong. It wasn't when I played it at launch, but they may have changed it. I don't know. But the garrison itself is such a counterintuitive thing to have in an MMO because it is your own.
Yeah.
Given, like, what they should have done, I mean, even this would have been bad. If they had, like, a guild garrison instead of a single-player garrison, that may have been slightly better, because you would see other people from your guild roaming about using the facilities. But just to have your own, which is in the same place as everybody else's, and you have every, like, amenity and facility there you need, it just suddenly think, that's not an MMO. The only time you see, honestly, the only time I would see people in World of Warcraft, if I played right now, would be if I used the Dungeon Finder. Or I rolled a character from the start. Maybe I'd see the odd person leveling. That game has got millions of players, even though it is a bit of a low. Their city should be fucking rammed. That first time you got to Orgrimmar when you were like a little bitch orc rogue, and you come rolling in, and you're like, oh my god, and there's loads of people running around. It's like, Christ, you just don't get that with Warlords of Draenor. You're just on your own.
Yeah, you just stood in your garrison.
Drain or whatever it's called.
I mean, he actually says in this the user actually says in this Reddit comment about garrisons, player housing light meets Facebook games. It's a huge feature in Warlords of Draenor and one of its downfalls. You get a phased instance for yourself with several amenities like portals, auction house, bank, and mine, a herb garden, and other profession buildings where you can place work orders. You throw some materials at an NPC, and a few hours later you can pick up items that are otherwise only crafted by daily profession cooldowns. Also allows you to craft, for example, a sword, even though you're not a blacksmith, as long as you have a forge.
Yeah.
The worst part about garrisons is the huge amounts of gold they bring into the economy through follower missions. This is the Facebook game part. You have several NPCs that you can collect and then send on missions. A lot of these missions reward loads of gold, which gets even worse if you have the right followers. Those NPCs can have traits like Treasure Hunter, which doubles the amount of gold you get from one such mission. If you have enough of those Treasure Hunters, you could easily pull in 5,000 gold a day across 2 or 3 characters.
They fuck the economy. They fuck the economy in this game.
They take
that
away
little bit there, bloke. The bit there about, like, anybody can make a fucking sword. You don't even need to be a blacksmith. Yeah. I remember buying a blacksmith-made shield on my warrior in, like, Wrath from a guy, and I remember saving up for that for it was about a week. I got the reagents, I bought them off other people. I met the guy by the forge in Orgrimmar, and he's down by where the warriors used to train before it all got changed. And the guy makes it and he gives it to me. That is an MMO experience. Not walking up to a fucking NPC and just getting something given to you. That is crap. Yeah, like when I played EverQuest live on the stream about 3 months ago, to even trade in that game, you have to sit in a tunnel, which is not designed for trading. It's just like a high-trafficked area. People sit down, and you can go up to them, and they will show you their wares in their bag, and you can say, oh, I'll give you this much for it. I'll give you that much. You barter and you buy. Okay, that's extremely hardcore. Tell you what, people talk about them nerd chills or whatever the fuck you get where your hair stands upon end. It's like, well, that was a really good experience. You get that. You do not get that from talking to a guy in a base that you've got and every other player's got, and it just gives you what you want. And these followers can give you bloody epic loot as well from certain quests, I believe.
Yeah, the thing that gets me about the garrison that kind of, I mean, all of it is a bad idea. Effectively, for an MMO, all of it is a shit idea. But the idea that you can mine materials to create a sword, even though you can't mine and you're not a blacksmith, and at the same time you can send off a bunch of NPCs that interact with nothing except they just go off, except they disappear for however many hours, and there's a percentage chance that they will succeed. You've taken all the effort out of doing anything. You've taken the effort out of crafting, because you either no longer have to, have the profession to do it. You can just get your NPC to do it, which also means that there's no point going to other people to get this stuff done because, well, you can do it. And they've also taken the effort out of actually earning the gold. It's like do you remember the when the Sunwell patch dropped, and we logged on like every day for like a hell of a long time doing the daily quests. And now it's what, you log in, you send some boys off in your garrison, and then you just piss off again. And that's it. It's like that's crap. Where is the actual MMO aspect of sitting in like a phased instance where you see no one else and all you're doing is interact with NPCs? That's called a single player RPG. Go and fucking play Dragon Age Inquisition if you want that, because that's what that game is. So
the game
why
is so backwards in its current state. It's so backwards. I mean, I know they try to make things easier for the casual player, or which I understand. I don't want to be playing Warcraft for 10 hours a day. I'd like to play it for an hour a day, and if it gave me what I wanted, that'd be great. But on the other hand, I don't want to be able to do everything in that hour. That's kind of it seems like, I don't know how the garrison decision is a very poor decision, and all the other decisions with the content not being enough, the standardized loot tables across different dungeons, all of that stuff. The raids, I've not done the raids. I've seen videos of the raids, and they don't look very good, to be honest. They look pretty shit. Where's all this like creativity gone? Where you've seen places like Karazhan, where's that gone? Where's all it's just like you need daily quests. I don't care what people say about reputation grinds or anything like that. You need them in these games, because if me and Kiri want to work for a certain faction, we should be able to go over there, do quests for them.
Look at the Argent tournament.
Get loot. Exactly. Why is that not a thing?
I did those quests for that faction
that
over and over again because I was trying to get a mount and I was trying to get gear that they had. That's the thing as well.
Yeah, the Argent Charger thing.
Yeah, I know. And in fact, I got it in the end, thinking about it. I know people complain about like the grind of reputation and stuff, but I distinctly remember in Wrath, when I was going round, I was like, right, I'm a healing paladin. I'm a healer. I need gear. So, what am I going to do? Okay, well, I know the Argent guys have got a set of gloves. I know these guys have got a decent offhand. And I know these guys have got a decent chest. Therefore, I will do their daily quests. It took like a week, if that, to do that. It did not take a long time, because
and that keeps you playing the game.
Yeah, it keeps you playing. It keeps you progressing.
Their garrison thing will keep you paying to play the game, because you can just log in for a few hours a day and do it. But no, it's like you log in for 5 seconds, click a few buttons, and then just log out.
Well, this is the thing
there's probably people with multiple garrisons abusing it as well. Like, it's just shit, bloke. I hate garrisons.
The thing as well, though, is like, you say you log in for 5 seconds, but before I just put away WoW, and I was like, this is crap, I'm not playing this anymore. I was spending the majority of my time in the garrison. Because you're just micromanaging everything. It's like, I've got better collect my herbs, better collect my ores. I better go over here and collect this thing that this guy's made. Give him another recipe to make. Oh, I've got some more resources. I better go back to the main part of the garrison so I can build another wooden hut in the corner. Oh, my followers have come back, so I need to send them off. Before you know it, you've wasted like 35 minutes. And if like, as you say, it's like you want to play an MMO for an hour a day. I want to spend that hour doing instances. I don't want to spend it dicking about in a garrison. And yet, it makes no sense to ignore the garrison because you get so much from it. It's like you are literally being pushed into doing something which is antisocial and the opposite of what an MMO is about. Even your progression, it's like, as the guy says, you can get NPCs to make you a sword. Your followers can come back with loot in some cases. Why would you make it so that I log into the biggest MMO on the planet, and if I've only got an hour a day, I have to spend it not talking to anyone? Why would you do that? It's like, that's fucking stupid. How about instead... And also,
biggest subscription MMO.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know what I mean. But it's like, also the other thing as well with like the standardized loot tables and things, like the fact that we did quite a few instances and I got like the same piece of loot like 4 times.
I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. I'm like, I've just got this leg item from the. I didn't know that they were the same table. I was like, this can't be right.
Yeah, yeah. That's like, if you are going to then spend your hour doing instances, it's going to be really shit if you spend your hour doing instances. The first one takes half an hour. You know you've got half an hour to do another one. But it's like, oh, but the chances are you get the same thing anyway. That's really shit as well. I mean, I know people didn't... Well, no, this is not true. I was about to say, I know people didn't like the fact that you had to roll, need, and green and whatever before. I think most people didn't really have a problem with that, apart from the odd time some wanker ninja'd your loot, which everyone's experienced at some point.
Yeah.
But at least with that, it was like, if I went into the dungeon finder, like, depending on what instance there was, I'd be like, oh shit, this has got gear for me. Like, every instance had gear for me. Okay, granted, at the time it might not have been plate, it might have been mail or something, but with the right combination of classes in the instance, you know, I could quite easily end up with a decent pair of mail gauntlets for my healing paladin, because it was like, okay, you can wear that, and it's got everything you need. Brilliant, off you go. The idea of just going into an instance, there's like no drop as such, it's just, here you go, have a piece of gear. You know, once you've done something, it's like, here you go. That's really crap. That's not the same.
It's like on paper. Yeah, it's not the same, but on paper, it kind of is the same. You can see where they've done it, because it's like, well, why would you do the instance? For the loot, wouldn't you? Well,
yeah.
Well, if you do any instance, you've still got a chance of getting that loot, and we'll just give it you at the end. But it's not the same. It literally is not the same. Why would you go through one instance in older World of Warcraft expansions? It is because you want the loot, probably off the boss. So the progression, you fight through, get to the end, kill him. Oh, I never dropped it this time, but we can do it again maybe tomorrow or something because we're locked out. Now, it's like I want the loot, but I'll just do the dungeon. Oh, I never got it. I'll just do another one, and I'll just do another one. And there's no, like, you don't feel like you're adventuring anywhere. You're just, like, getting... It's really, really, like... Homogenized is not the word, because that means everything's the same. It's diluted. It's the same end result from, like, a design standpoint. But the actual journey is horrendous.
Like, it's just not as good. I mean, I remember, I can't remember whether it was for my off spec or my main spec, but I remember us running Culling of Stratholme, like, over and over again. Not just because, for a start, I mean, that was a really well designed dungeon. I loved doing that dungeon. It was really good. But there was a shield in there, and I think it might have actually been for my off spec, because I was tank off spec.
Lord Ran, it was the massive crest of Lord Ran.
Yeah. But I remember we did that over and over again, because it was like, this is what we want, this is what we want, this is the target, this is what we want. Now, I know it's kind of, you can still do the same thing now, and you know, you can aim to get a certain piece of loot from a certain dungeon. But although it's like the same end result, there's a lot more satisfaction in running that thing, and then you get to the last boss and it drops something, and someone loots it, and it's like, shit, that's the thing, that is it, that's what I wanted. For some reason, that is far more satisfactory to me, you know, with a chance of it being something else, something that you don't want. But
I agree. I totally agree.
As a group, you still get that thing of, like, whenever we did the Argent Tournament dungeon, like, there was, I can't remember what it was, I think it might have been a neck or something that was in there that was really good for me. But, like, if something dropped that wasn't for me, and someone in the group went, oh my god, I need this, oh my god, this is brilliant. At first you're like, it's not the piece of loot I wanted, bollocks. But then you're like, that guy got a massive upgrade, that's quality. There's still that group, I mean, 90% of the time, you've still got that really good group experience.
And of course, you just don't know now.
Yes.
You just don't know everybody just gets something, so you just don't know. It's like...
And again, that's taking away the social aspect of an MMO, because, you know, you're in this group, you've fought all these bosses, you've completed the dungeon, it might have been tricky, people might have died, but you've done it, you've finished it. The reward drops. The reward's not for you. But the mage over there, he's just cacked his pants. He's so happy about it. He's like, oh my god, I needed this. Now I can go and do this. And you don't sit there
thus
going...
enhances your experience of the game. And
exactly.
And then it builds the environment, the world that you're living in. And everything they've done, like over the years, it slowly erodes away the social aspect of that game. You can even go far back and say, well, when they introduced the Dungeon Finder, that was like, well, this is no longer do you have to sit there and go looking for group, or I'm a tank, I can do this, or whatever. Made the game easier in that respect. It made it faster, so that did make it. And you know, I would have been one of the people who'd be like, "What the hell is this shit?" Because I was used to playing, you know, EverQuest and whatever. And in that game, there was no dungeon folder. There is now, but there wasn't back then. And so, but as time goes on, that is like an acceptable change to me now. Just like a raid finder, that's kind of an acceptable change. But to just take you out of that, there is a fundamental thing in an MMO, or a fundamental feeling from the players, where you need to be able to feel like you are in a world. And the only way you can feel like that is if there are other players with you.
Yeah.
You can't just put NPCs all over the place, because that really isn't the same.
And you know
what? You want people running all over the place. And this
was one of the biggest problems that we had with Star Wars, The Old Republic. the fact that
Exactly.
it was an MMO, but unless you were specifically doing an instance, it didn't feel like an MMO. It felt like we were playing a co-op RPG. It did not feel
Yeah.
like we were in a massive populated world surrounded by people, and that turned us off the game. It turned me off the game. I stopped playing it because it didn't feel
Yeah, yeah,
like an
for sure.
MMO. But World of Warcraft, the thing that really kind of that I just don't understand is World of Warcraft didn't used to feel like that. Like, as you say, when we started playing together and we ran to Orgrimmar, and I seem to remember we ran to Orgrimmar before we really did anything else. It was like, you've got to come and see Orgrimmar. It's like someone who'd never played the game before. I'd never played, apart from Tabula Rasa, which was totally shit. I'd never played like an MMO before, so it was like, you have to come and see this. So I did go and see it. I go in, and there's people everywhere. Like, absolutely everywhere. There's all different classes and levels and gear and everything, and I think within the first month or so of playing, I saw some rogue stood in Orgrimmar with the twin blades of Azeroth, big green ones
Yeah,
that
the
Illidan's got,
Illidan.
and I
Yeah.
was like, "Holy shit! Look at that! That's amazing." I mean, you fucking join World of Warcraft now, and what are you going to get to see? The inside of a wooden wall with a bunch of NPCs walking around. Brilliant, fantastic. Yeah, that's going to get people
Like
to stay.
a
Isn't
guy
it? What the
says on
hell?
Reddit, he says it was teased that the Horde would get an ogre stronghold that you could capture early on during leveling, and it sort of would phase to be the Horde base in Warlords. And the Alliance would get Karabor, which is Black Temple, basically. However, though, the idea was scrapped, and it was scrapped in favor of just generic faction hubs on Ashran. Now, I've been to them. They're just like, they don't look like anything. They're just like
They're
generic buildings.
they're really
But,
crap. It's like a camp. It doesn't look like anything. It's just like
yeah,
a loose
but it's
collection of
got
tents.
everything you need, like auction houses and stuff. But here's the thing: it's so far away from anything. You're better off sitting in your garrison.
Yeah, it's miles away. I remember the first time I went there, and it took ages to get. And it's like, why would you make the effort to come over here when everything you need is in the garrison? And it's like that. That's the sad logic of it. It's like you could sit there and say, oh well, why don't you just go to Orgrimmar then? Well, yeah, you could, but frankly, if you're going to be in the game, if you're going to be playing the game, you're better off being. They've made it. They have actually done it so that you are better being in the garrison than
They
anywhere
want you
else.
in the garrison.
They
It's
want you
such.
there.
It's the worst decision in the history of this game. The garrison. It is just the worst. That everything to do with it.
The
It's
thing
just
is,
horrendous.
I mean, we can't. It's kind of difficult to speculate on what they'll do with the new expansion, but
Well, here's the thing. Let's throw the question out there. Where did it go? What did it do? What is the next expansion?
it's
Because they've got to invent the law. This is the problem
yeah,
now. They
yeah.
have to invent where they're going, and it's like people keep going on about South Seas expansions and all this shit. It's the same old shit you see all the time. Emerald Dream was another thing. Although somebody told me over Twitter that Emerald Dream was actually covered in one of the books that they released.
The play.
I mean, what do you do? What do you do with World of Warcraft right now? What you're Blizzard? You've got to get me back into your game. What do you do?
You kind of. I feel like you'd need to do something about the garrisons, but how can you? They are integral to the game now. The way they've put them in.
Would it matter if you just got rid of them? Sorry, they're gone.
I think honestly, I think most people wouldn't care. Honestly, I mean the people who are still
They
playing.
need a Dalaran.
I've
They
never.
need a Dalaran. You
Yeah,
need a joined city
yeah,
with both
yeah.
factions in the same city, because that takes away any kind of like problem if one faction's more populated than the other on a server, because you'll just see players everywhere anyway. That's
yeah.
what they need. That's what they really
I've
need. But I want to see. I want to see something where the Horde is actually at war with the Alliance. That's what I want to see.
Well, see,
I thought I was going to get that.
That's what Ashran was supposed to be, but it's just
Ashran's
nothing.
supposed to
It's
be a
like
disaster, ain't it?
It's like a nothing. I mean, as the guy says,
They were like
Ashran
supposed to be Alterac Valley, wasn't it? Or
yeah,
something,
planned
but-
as a dynamic open world battleground that was promised to be somewhat like the old Alterac Valley. I don't PvP, so I can't really say a lot about it, but PvPers seem to hate it. Although it has gone through several improvements, but the hate remains. Now I can kind of understand that because I never got a chance to play the old Alterac Valley. Like we played Alterac Valley, but it used to be a bit more mental, didn't it? Like the games went on for longer, and there was all crazy stuff going down. Like you could summon summon certain NPCs or something. It used to be more complicated, from what I understand. I didn't have any experience of it, but if you've got like that promise towards the people who've been playing since that point, and then it just turns out to be just a standard open world battleground, they're not going to be impressed with that. Why Ashran wasn't made into like some sort of, I guess, like some kind of crazy tournament almost, like an ongoing bit of warfare. So it's like a piece of land that both forces are fighting over. You've got a decent a decent settlement on either side, one for Horde, one for Alliance, instead of just a collection of shit tents and NPCs standing around, because that's
I think, bloke, what's
bad.
happening is Ashran, you just get gank squads going around killing people, and it's just no fun for people. I think that's the problem with it. Like, the best PvP in World of Warcraft is the battlegrounds, if you ask me, unless you like
Yeah,
arena. But it is the battleground. You stop. I mean, that's the best PvP experience I've had in MMOs. Where I remember you waiting for the gate to drop down, whether it's Warsong Gulch or whatever. You run
yeah,
out, and then there's a big fight. There's a couple of objectives, but it's I guess an equal fight, equal numbers anyway, equal level range. I know there were twinks running around and God knows what, but it was still that was enjoyable and that's great. Ultra Valley was on a much larger scale, like you said. We never played the old one, which could go on for days and days and days. We played the slightly refined version of it, but
yeah. But we
that
played
was still
constantly.
enjoyable.
I played that enough to get. I think in the end, I was only.
Yeah, we had a load of PvP gear, didn't
I think
we?
I was
Like
only
Gladiator gear.
Yeah, I was only 2 pieces off having a full set, which kind of says something, given that I'd never done PvP in the game before, and we started messing about with it, and then suddenly that's all I did.
Well, that's what got me. That's what got me to play the game, and ultimately got you to come and play the game. Because when I was
Yeah,
really bad with Crohn's in 2007, I think it was
yeah, it was a
six. I don't know.
while
It
ago
was a
now.
long time ago. I was basically bedridden, and I was just like, "What games have I got?" And I noticed I had World of Warcraft, and I was like, "Oh,"
Because it was
and I loaded it up.
it was like the tail end of Burning Crusade that we started
Yeah,
playing.
it was Burning Crusade at some point when I first started playing it because well, I played it. I mean, I played vanilla, but not for much. But it was the end of Burning Crusade, and I remember I had a Blood Elf Warlock,
Yeah,
and I went into the PvP. I just made a Warlock, so it's like whatever. I'll make a Warlock. I didn't realize it was like overpowered at the time, and went into the battlegrounds, and I just got addicted to the battlegrounds. It's like this is so good, and I
yeah,
just kept going time and time again. The game, like I mean, for me, what do I think they need to do? They need to make the game social again. They need to have a
yeah,
proper pipeline of content and not just release like Warlords had a brilliant leveling phase, and then it just ended. Then it
yeah.
literally ended, and that is what
It's like the game
shitty MMOs
stopped.
do.
It's like the
That's
game
what shit
stopped.
MMOs do as well. They splurge all the cash, and then that's it. The end is nothing. It's
Do
just
you
like they put
remember?
in some grindy mechanics or some shit, but they don't even really have that.
Do you remember the best example of that I think I've ever seen was when we played Age of Conan.
Yeah,
That
right. Yeah,
game
so it
up
just
to
ran
what
out.
was it?
Yeah,
What was it? Up to
about
level
level 50
40?
or
Was
something,
it level 40, level
something like
50?
that. Something like
Was
that.
full of content, and then the game just stopped. And it wasn't until you just said that I've just kind of realised that's Warlords of Draenor is the same feeling. I couldn't really work out what it was, but it felt kind of familiar, but I couldn't work out where. I think that's it, because I remember we played Age of Conan, and you just got to a point, and literally everything stopped. There was no content. They just didn't do any content, and it wasn't a case of, oh well, maybe they just needed a few more quests. No, there was no quest. There was nothing. You just like killed stuff to level. That's all you could do. Literally, there was nothing else. It felt like that with Warlords of Draenor. We did the leveling. We did a couple of dungeons, and the game was finished. It was like there was nothing else. There was no social aspect. There was, there was not that many dungeons to begin with. When you did do the dungeons, the aspect of the loot drops and having that group experience was gone. And
The
what you're
dungeons were
left
so
with, you're not really
memorable. I
left with
can't even
anything.
remember the names of them. This is how
All I
ridiculous
remember
it
is
is.
there's one on a train.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
literally
yeah.
all I can
One
remember.
in a dock,
And yet,
one
I can
on
remember
like a
so
plant
many
place.
I can remember so many from Wrath. I can't remember many of Cataclysms. I remember an underwater one for
No, we
Cataclysm.
never.
But Wrath, it's like I think I could probably do every dungeon in Wrath now. Like we did it that often, and it was that engaging. And yet with Warlords of
I used to like
Draenor,
Ice
it was
Crown
just
Citadel where the Lich King was chasing you out of his castle. That was quite
yes,
good.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
but it's like uh, they need to. They've got massive problems, and it's going to be like Blizzard. Have you got the bollocks to fix what you've done, or are you just going to say garrisons are okay? Everyone keeps garrison, and then we just go on and here's another city you can go to. Maybe they don't even do that anymore. What I mean, what I literally have no idea what the expansion could be.
See,
I
this is
don't
the
play
thing.
this. I'm not up on the lore, but from what I know of Warcraft, the game has died lore wise now. It's like where
Yeah.
does it even go?
This is
Where
why
does this
this is
game
actually
go?
why I struggled when you said earlier, like, what do you think they're going to do? What do you think they should do? I'm not a game developer. I'm not a game designer, and it's going to sound arrogant when I say I have no idea how they would fix this, but I genuinely don't. I don't have any idea how you fix an MMO where you've taken the social aspect away. I don't know how you repair that. I don't know how you
Well,
would go
it's
about just
I know.
removing
No,
the
no, you
garrison.
do. Well, you just remove it. But what I'm saying is, where do they go? what is the story of the game? Are they just going to invent something and go, oh, this has happened now? Is it still going to be something tied into what's going on? Because they don't really have anybody evil.
No,
There's nobody out there now. Like
they don't really have any villains left, do they?
No, I mean you've got like Garrosh is dead. Thrall killed him. He's dead. He's just gone.
And again, why the hell did Thrall kill him? Why?
Because he had issues with that. That was to do with the Mr. Pat. Because Thrall made him the war chief, didn't he? That's why.
Well, yeah, but
and it was his mess to clean up. It's very generic. The law is and WoW, bro. That was basically it.
I know, but the problem I've got is like when you set someone up as like the big bad of the expansion, don't have an NPC kill him. That's a bit crap. I don't like that idea. I was
shocked when he died at the end. I was like, oh. Like in the Nagran quest line thing, he suddenly just there's a cinematic and there's a fight and then that's it. And I was like, oh, and then his corpse is just like permanently there with that fist of rock which is like crushed him. It's like, well,
it's just that's kind of. I wonder if that wasn't. Well, I said that wasn't a mistake. I think that was a mistake. I think you can't base an expansion
considering
around
he was a raid. He was a raid, like where he invaded Orgrimmar and all kinds of shit, didn't he? In the end of Mr. Pandaria, so
yeah, having that happen is like they've taken away the big baddie from the expansion. I mean, where would Wrath have gone if someone just walked up to Arthas and just murdered him? It's like where
I don't think he was meant to be.
Of the...
But that's the problem, though. I don't think Garrosh was meant to be like the enemy.
Is the
Warlords,
writing got worse then? Is that another problem?
Oh,
the
yeah,
writing just got like far worse than it was. It's not so much that they've run out of lore, but they just cannot come up with any extra.
Don't know. They come up with like very poor lore. That's the problem. Like it's not childish, but it's very generic. Like really generic. They've gone from this glory years of like your Arthur storyline, your Burning Legion, your bloody all of this stuff, and then suddenly they invented a dragon. Well, I think he might have been in the lore Deathwing, but it's like, oh, I'm just come to blow your planet up. It's like, oh, right then, okay.
Yeah.
And then you've got Mr. Pandaria, which, okay, the Pandaren were like a joke in World of Warcraft. They literally were, well, in Warcraft 3, there was just a guy. I don't know who he was. He's in the game, actually, isn't he? I don't know what his name is.
Brewmaster
somebody, yeah. He was, because he's got the his little, like, female chum is a character in Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah.
And then you go from that to Warlords, which is this time travel shit back to before the invasion of Azeroth. So it's like, okay, this is like, oh Christ, this should be amazing. You know, you're going to have Medivh and all these people going, and it was just like,
it's nothing.
It literally is not. Well, I mean, it's something which has happened, which really has had no effect on the game. Like, nothing has changed. It's just like, oh yeah, there was time. It's a different, like, strand of time over there. It's fine now, so we just carry on as it's weird. Like nothing has happened to Azeroth. Oh my god, I just don't know what they can do with it.
It kind of feels
should
like
should it be put out to pasture? Be like, lads.
I just feel like it shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be that. This is the thing that's getting me. It shouldn't be that difficult to, firstly, keep an MMO social, and secondly, write lore for Warcraft. Because I know. I'm not going to say like, oh, it's like totally shit, but it's pretty standard fantasy stuff. I mean, you've got
like Harry Potter level fantasy.
You've got like demons and stuff turning up, yeah, but it's hardly like fucking George R.R. Martin levels of politics and shit, is it? It's just your standard fantasy book in a game. So if they're prepared to mess about with time, why did they kill off Arthas? Like, where's the new Lich King? He got replaced. Someone stepped up and took him.
Yeah, this is what they're saying. That could be because maybe he's gone crazy, and you've got to go and sort him out.
It would absolutely make sense. It would absolutely make sense. I mean, let's face it. Arthas wasn't like a horrendous person to begin with. He just kind of turned into that. So why someone else couldn't go through the same process? Why can't we see like a resurgence of Northrend?
But like then don't you sit there and you just be like, well, fucking hell, they're just doing the same story again, which it would be. If you're a WoW player.
Yeah, true.
They need to do something that is totally different. But
the thing is, they've already tried that, and they fucked it up with Warlords of Draenor. Because time travel going back to, where everything started.
They can't do time travel again. They can't do that again. That is retarded. They need to do like
They need to have what's his name riding in on the back of another dragon we never heard of. That would fix it.
Yeah.
In before that's actually the expansion. I apologise if that's giving them ideas.
What would be a very generic word for like Destruction More. There you go, Destruction More, the beast has come from somewhere, and he's going to kill us. I mean, they've had
Bloodmore.
like
There we go. There's a
the old gods is the thing. Why is that not like there should be you know what it should be? A massive subterranean expansion. That's what it should be. Because aren't the old gods fucking locked away somewhere on the
yeah.
planet or something
Well,
ridiculous?
yeah, that was the whole thing with it was Yogg-Saron, wasn't it? In the in
Cataclysm had something to do. Oh no, yeah, no, yeah,
in
Ulduar.
Ulduar, because that was Wrath as well, wasn't it? Ulduar.
Yeah,
Was it? Yeah, it was.
yeah,
So
it was. Yeah,
why
because
can't
it
we just
was.
have a resurgence of those? Like, why don't they come up and start causing trouble? That's already based in the law. You know, that's they wouldn't have to make too much up, which means they wouldn't be able to screw it up quite as much.
What I don't want to see them do is go to space. If they go to space, I'm just
No,
going to
fuck
laugh
that.
because I can imagine it. Oh, the goblins have made a space rocket, and so have the gnomes. And now we're going to a planet we found, and it's just be like,
Gonna go on a
okay, I
generation
know,
ship that's powered
yeah.
by the heart of a dragon, and it's got Yogg-Saron's eye on the front to see where it's going in space.
I mean, I know Warcraft isn't like
I know it's not
high
super
fantasy.
serious,
It's
but
like stupid, like sci-fi-ish fantasy mental
the
shit.
trick
But
is not going too
uh,
stupid. It's like
what
keep
do they
it.
do,
Yeah,
guys? What do you think they should do?
yeah. I really
Be
want to know.
interested to
Like,
see.
if you've got any theories about where they're gonna go with this, or even if you still play the game and you think we're full of shit and Garrison's the best thing ever, then by all means do say something.
Have
Because
an opinion. Just don't
yeah,
say you guys are idiots or wankers because that's terrible. You have to give some sort
yeah,
of
that doesn't
opinion.
mean anything. You've got to actually, give us something to work with. So I'll tell you what. Let's go straight on to something else fairly controversial. So this is a Reddit thread. Big sites didn't pick this up, unfortunately, but this is from a video that appeared on the No YouTube channel, where
Okay.
they reported on an apparently anonymous source turned up and said, "I've got information regarding Half-Life 3 and the fact that it's never coming out." So they've said that they've got in touch with the No and they've said that Half-Life 3 is not going to be a thing. It's never going to be released. It's partway through development. There's a finished script, but Valve have absolutely no interest in releasing it whatsoever. And it's a combination of different reasons. Now, the video's on, it's muted because otherwise it's just going to get confusing. It's 15 minutes long, but actually the arguments can be boiled down quite easily. So the arguments essentially come down to, firstly, they're already making enough money. And we actually have evidence of that right here. There's a market data firm that released something, which I'll just show you here. This is from PC Gamer. Market data firm claims Valve made $730 million last year. That sounds like a sensible number to me. It doesn't sound outlandish, given what Valve do and what they have in terms of games out and the success of Dota 2 and just how big Steam is in general in terms of a platform. That makes perfect sense to me. That seems like a sensible number. So it's a combination of they make enough money that they don't need it. They've also claimed that this source has said that Valve management, which is an interesting word to use based on that employee handbook that came out a while ago, but we'll talk about that in a minute, don't want the game to be released because there's a very high expectation for it. And if you remember the backlash from Mass Effect 3,
Yeah.
they don't want that kind of backlash against Half-Life because it's, well, you think you say Valve, you think Half-Life. That's just how it works. You think of other stuff as well, but they're still, Half-Life was their thing. Their big their big core franchise. There are other sort of little reasons as well, whereby it's kind of stuff like the interior, like the structure of Valve has meant that the program stumbled anyway. And as the culture's kind of developed, management has pushed it to the side. So it's like making enough money, don't want the negative reaction. People don't want to make it anyway, and releasing it wouldn't actually do anything to, assist the company in any way. Now, it's kind of it's worth talking about this because it's Half-Life 3 is kind of in a weird place in terms of how people regard it. There's a core group of people who want Half-Life 3. They still want it. They want it to come out. They want Valve to develop it. They want it to be released. They want to play Half-Life 3 because they loved Half-Life, Half-Life 2, etc., etc. There's also another group of people who claim to do the same thing. They claim they want that as well, but they're being ironic. It's like, that's a joke. They're not too fussed about Half-Life 3. The whole thing of, every time someone says anything Half-Life 3 confirmed, it's a running joke now. It's, the chances are it's not going to be released anyway, regardless. And I thought that before I watched this video, so I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I've said it before. But having made that video, the No then got in touch with Mark Laidlaw, who wrote the script, wrote the story for Half-Life 2. Well, a fan got in touch with Mark Laidlaw. He replied to the fan sent it to the No, and the No then contacted Laidlaw themselves. And Laidlaw has tried to debunk what they've said, effectively saying, the thing is, you say the script's finished, that's not how it works. The script isn't written until the game is in development or has finished development, which sounds odd to me, but he's the guy who writes scripts for video games, so I'm not going to argue with the guy. He also kind of cast aspersions on the whole idea of, why would, Valve are too scared to release it in case of negative backlash. It's like, what does that even mean? That doesn't make any sense in the context. I think he called that statement plain silly, but he hasn't really said anything to back it up as to why it's silly. At this point, I'm at the stage where I don't think Half-Life 3 will appear. Not particularly because of anything that...
Half-Life 3 was Gabe has said, and I'm pretty sure he said this in certain things, and there's been other bits of news floating around over the last couple of years, that for it to be, it would have to launch, and it'd have to be like something we've not seen before. So whether it was going to be tied into VR and that didn't work out, or they knew it wouldn't have the power to sell enough VR headsets, because let's be honest, if Half-Life 3 popped up now and it's like, oh, here's Half-Life 3, the game's 50 quid, but you've got to buy a 100 quid VR headset to play it, nobody's going to buy that.
No.
They're just going to be like, well, some people will, obviously, but it's not going to do that well. So, maybe you could say if VR was such a heavy thing for them and they really wanted to be, because we know Valve have got their Vive headset and the HTC thing and all that crap, maybe we're going to be looking at a thing which will be 4 or 5 years down the line when things like VR headsets are widely adopted by then. Maybe then you'll see something, but it is, to say it's a running joke now, it is like beyond a joke, like really, really beyond a joke that this game, like, oh, where's Half-Life 3 or Half-Life 3 confirmed. At the end of the day, Half-Life, I'm using your fucking terminology, all in all, at the end of the day, essentially, it's just an FPS game with a story. And if you play Half-Life 1, obviously it's really dated. If you play Half-Life 2, it's still really dated. It's an on-rails, story-driven FPS. Yeah. That's all it is. And for one of those to release now, it would be generic. I'm sorry, it would be generic. Even if it had a decent story, it would just be like, this is kind of boring. There's nothing really going on. How are they going to push this forward? Because you look at the advancements from like when Half-Life turned up, everybody remembers the tram journey. That was never, like, FPS games of that age just started off with you shooting stuff immediately. There was no, like, let's sit down for 15 minutes.
There's no exposition. It was just...
No. This was like, let's try and tell a story. It was a weird way, because Gordon, as we know, doesn't actually speak, and you sort of have to work it out, but you felt like, wow, what is kind of going on here? And they carried it on with Half-Life 2. So with a better graphics engine, they had a lot of physics with the source engine and all kinds of stuff. With the gravity gun, it was like, whoa, look at this.
It was almost like, I'm not going to say a tech demo, but the physics were a very integral part of it. It was like the show-off technology. It was kind of like, look at what we've done.
The multiplayer for Half-Life, I wasn't played much, but one of them took place in like a prison, and you could like rip the toilets out and fire them at people with the gravity gun. It's like crazy. I mean, hell, look at Gary's mod. Gary's mod is just Half-Life 2. You could just do mental shit in it.
But there's a few things that people brought up in response to the video, which I kind of found interesting. The first is that there was a big reaction to the comment that the No made, which was about Valve management, kind of saying, we don't want this game. But that was the other thing as well. The people working on Half-Life 3 now, it was down to a skeleton staff of like 10 people, which for a game the size and scale of Half-Life 3 is preposterous. If it's going to be anything like the previous ones, you couldn't do that these days. And if it is that way, then much like Goddess with its team of like 2 people, it's never going to happen. But people particularly picked up on the phrase like management, because people still seem to think that, do you remember this is years and years ago now, the employee handbook for Valve was leaked.
Yeah,
and it talked about how there's no hierarchy. It's a flat level company whereby everyone is basically in the same position. Obviously,
Yeah.
apart from Gabe, because it's Gabe, he owns the damn thing. Whereby if you wanted to move from your project on Dota 2, I don't think Dota 2 was even around when the handbook was made in 2002. It said on the handbook, but you could move your desk to somewhere else. Like you want to go from coding Left 4 Dead mods or like expansions, you can move over to into the VR section. If you want to start your own project, then you can just take your desk into the corner and do whatever you like. People, for some reason, still seem to think that that is most definitely how Valve operates. And I've never been to Valve, right? I don't work at Valve, but I have a very, very hard time believing that a company that is making an estimated or claimed $730 million in 2014 has a completely flat hierarchy. Because that's a very good way of not getting much done. Because if people don't want to work on something, they'll go and work on something else, which means that thing will eventually grind to a halt. You cannot have a company whereby everyone does whatever they like. I don't see how that's supposed to work. Now, it may have worked back when the handbook was written, and it may have worked to a point where when it was leaked. But you're not telling me that a company the size of Valve has not in some way, even if it's simply a case of veterans of the company are able to somewhat direct newer members of the company, you're not telling me that company still has no hierarchy. It is a flat level. Everyone is absolutely equal. I have a very tough time believing that. I don't understand how they would get stuff done, because if the guy who is the lead on whatever the project is suddenly says, right, bored of that, I'm going over there. What do you do? What do you do? Like, you can't tell him to stay because it's a flat hierarchy.
No,
So,
I think it can't. You can't be. You're going to have projects in development, and it's going to be needs to be done by this.
yeah.
If people, a lot of these tech companies do kind of operate kind of like that. Don't they? It's like, oh yeah, we're all flippant. We can do what we like. We just roll around and whatever, I suppose. But Valve is, because Valve doesn't have shareholders. You know what? Maybe it is run like that. They don't need money. They don't need shareholders. They just make loads of money through Steam, so they can fuck about. They could literally just fuck about. If you were working on it for 2 years and you just walked up to me and went, "Oh, you know what? I'm not feeling it anymore, boss." Oh, it's cool, mate.
But then again,
maybe they are like that. Maybe they are.
They reckon Superdata is the company that claims that Valve made 730 million.
Well, how accurate
in
is that,
2014. Well, I don't know. There's not really any other source other than them. It says that Valve have not released their own figures, and Superdata admit that their estimates are conservative. Right. If their estimates are conservative, that suggests that actually they might have brought in far more than 730 million. But they reckon that Dota 2, Team Fortress 2, and Counter-Strike Global Offensive brought in 400 million.
Yeah.
Now, in the case of at least one of those things, in the case of Dota 2, a lot of the stuff that kind of costs money for Dota 2 is fan-made. So you've got the you've got the Steam Marketplace, and you can put your stuff on there and people can buy it. So there's not going to be a huge amount in terms of development of Dota 2 in that respect. But in terms of bringing it into the Source 2 engine with Dota 2 Reborn, again, I cannot see a company worth that much, making that much money and producing that kind of game, just saying to a guy who has been doing a ton of work on it, yeah, whatever, Barry, go and sit in the corner and do whatever you like. I don't see that as a viable strategy, to be honest. And it's the same for Team Fortress 2 and Counter-Strike Global Offensive. The other thing that people had a real problem with when the video was published was when Mass Effect 3 was published and people, got to the ending and lost their shit and it wasn't what they wanted and they thought it was terrible and they didn't like it.
I didn't think it was that bad.
Well, it got a lot of complaints. And something that people like to say is, oh, well, it only got complaints on the internet. Which is fair enough, because I'd imagine the majority of users weren't that fussed about it. We know that the vocal minority is exactly that. They are the loudest, but they're also the smallest, generally speaking, when it comes to especially complaints. And so people kind of said, well, you say that, but I mean, for Mass Effect 3, it was only, like, compared to how many units were sold, it wasn't that number of people who had a problem with it. It was a vastly smaller number. Therefore, why would Valve care? Well, the thing is, even though it's a small number of people, they can still cause a huge amount of trouble. Like, this is the
Valve know
thing.
this because of the mod situation that
Yeah,
they tried with the
I mean,
paid mods.
not only do they know it from the mod situation, but they know it from watching the situation for Mass Effect and BioWare, whereby the forums for BioWare had to be turned, like, they wouldn't allow any new registrations. Now, I know that only sounds like a small thing, but that means that you've got a constant, ongoing, uncontrollable flood of new sign-ups so that people can bitch at you and tell you how much your game sucks, right?
Well,
Whether you like it or not, like whether that's the vocal minority being really loud, whether it's a huge number of people, that's still putting the team who created Mass Effect and BioWare itself into a position whereby they are essentially flooded with abuse. Now, regardless of how big your company is and how much you don't care about what people think, you also have to understand that Valve might be the big corporation, but it's staffed by human beings. It's not staffed by people who cannot read or don't understand what an insult is. It's staffed by people who, if Half-Life 3 comes out and they've spent the last 10 years plus working on it, and the first thing that happens is the internet, which is a small number of people compared to the number of copies that would be sold, immediately said, "This fucking sucks, kill yourself, I hate you," that's still going to have a negative impact, not on the corporation as a whole, but on the people who work there. So that's not all that preposterous, because you'd see constantly the effect that like that kind of feedback has on people. When there was that story ages ago where they changed this, what was it? They changed the reload time or something on a sniper rifle in Call of Duty, and one of the game designers who was on Twitter got hate mail. Like, literally, people were saying that they were going to find his children and kill them because they slightly altered, the reload on a sniper rifle.
The Call of Duty thing. I mean, when you look at these figures, Valve making 750 million. Call of Duty, Black Ops 2 made $500 million in the first 24 hours of sales. Yeah. So that shows you like this. Like 750 million is a lot of money, but really it's not that much money when you look at what other companies are doing. I mean, hell, I bet Blizzard are obliterating that for revenue and God knows what. I just think like Valve really feels to me as like an outsider who's never, I've never been to Seattle, I've never been like met Gabe or any of that. It just seems to me like it's a company which did start making games, and it obviously still does make games. It kind of, it's almost like a game service provider now, though, isn't it? Really, because when's the last time they made a game? You know what I mean? It's like it's years and years ago now. They just sort of, they don't need to make games. They don't. They are the iTunes of the game world. They are the Apple of the game world. They do not need to make games. They can just sit there and make massive amounts of money because they are the market leader for digital sales, and that will never change unless they release a shit game or do something so horrendously bad that people are like, fucking fuck you, Valve, like they did with the mod situation. And this goes back to what you said at the start of this whole piece, where it could literally be the truth that they are not going to ever release this game ever because they do not want any because it's so hyped. It is the most hyped game ever. I mean, if it was announced and said it's coming out next year, the hype would explode, the internet would die. And then if it wasn't the greatest thing ever, people would die. You know what I mean? It would be like, God. So I can see, so if you're sitting there and it's your company, you could be like, well, why do we want to ruin a good thing when we're making so much money hand over fist?
I think that's one of the overriding things to take away from it. Like at the bottom here, on the PC Gamer article, there is a direct quote that they've taken out of the email that Mark Laidlaw sent to this fan who got in touch with him. Fear is the last thing that would ever drive a decision about what to work on. First, I don't think that's necessarily true to begin with. And also, I think it doesn't just have to be fear. Like, I think he's taken that particular part kind of out of context. If a company is making $730 million in 2014, they've got essentially close to a monopoly. I mean, we do have contenders, in terms of Origin and
they've got a monopoly, haven't they? Yeah.
But in terms of like, if you want to find independent games, you go to Steam. If you want to find AAA releases, you go to Steam. If you want to find Billy Bob's shitty green light Unity asset flipping bonanza, then you go to Steam. Although why you'd want that, I don't know. But they have a stranglehold on that market, and like contained into that framework, they have 3 vastly successful games. Dota 2 is fucking huge. It's massive. You've seen the amount that they've got for the... I say you've seen the amount. It's changed since last time we talked about the international. I can't remember how much the prize money is now, but it's a vast amount of money. Team Fortress 2, again, is a huge game. Counter-Strike Global Offensive kind of came out of nowhere, and it's now like an ever-growing esport. It's obliterated all of the first-person shooters for that. It could
17.7 million. That's how much it's at.
That's insane. That's just prize money for a tournament. And this is something that, is built into the Steam marketplace. Same for Team Fortress 2, same for Counter-Strike Global Offensive. They've got 3 massive games. They've got a platform that supports it that also sells an insane number of other games. They don't need to release Half-Life 3. They simply don't need to. It's not going to... It might sell quite well, but it's also been a hell of a long time. And for every person who's sitting there going, oh, I really want Half-Life 3, you've got just as many people sitting there going, I don't give a fuck anymore, and there's a good chance it'll be shit, and I don't want to risk it. And you've also got that added problem of what if it is the Mass Effect 3 effect, whereby people play it and they're like, this is just fucking terrible. I've waited 10 years for this. The fuck is this? And then suddenly you've got massive backlash. Why would you risk even a fraction of massive backlash when you can sit there making hundreds of millions of dollars hand over fist without having to do that?
It's all about calculated risk, and at the end of the day, the calculated risk here is you can release something, but it could be very detrimental to what you've actually got already. Yeah. So why would you do that? I mean, a wild example is the new Mad Max film. Mad Max was a franchise that was in the drain. Nobody cared about that. So it's worth taking a punt to try and reinvent it. You wouldn't go and reinvent like something with the Avengers. You wouldn't just come out and go, oh, right, here's the new Avengers, because that makes billions when it's released. You know what I mean? So you would never change that. And that's the difference here. And
it's the same. I mean,
honestly, personally, I don't care about Half-Life 3. Really, I don't care.
It's gone on for so long, and the jokes, which are at this point most definitely jokes most of the time, just illustrate how much of, I guess, just a waste of time it would be, because it's not. It's just been too long. It's just been far too long, and you can look at other examples of this, like. Look at the absolute clusterfuck mess that was Daikatana all those years ago. Took ages to develop, came out, and it was a piece of shit. Look at Duke Nukem Forever. It was worked on for ages. It comes out, and it's a piece of shit. Why would you even risk it? Why would you bother? When you're so profitable, and when you've got such a stranglehold, and when you've got other games that are funding you forever and a day, why would you even bother? And I don't think they will. And I think that's why they've remained silent on it as well, because at this point, if you say anything, it's going to be an equal mix between the people going, oh yeah, whatever, Gabe, like you're really doing Half-Life 3. If he said, we are developing it, it is going to be out at some point, half the internet would go, you're full of shit. The other half would lose their shit. And the same would result when it gets released anyway, so why would you bother? You just wouldn't. Whether you kind of agree with the reasoning, I think it's probably something where if you think about it yourself and kind of put aside the fact that you kind of have to put aside the fact that you liked Half-Life 2. Like, almost accept Half-Life 2 for what it was. It was a good game. Okay? It was undeniably a good game. It had some really good physics, and that was, one of the showcase parts of the game. The story was decent, but when you go back...
No, the story was really good. That was the thing with that game.
But then when you go back to it, it's like, you can play other games... Let me just
build the picture. You have Half-Life, where you don't really know what's going on. You're just a guy who's turned up for work, and then there's been an accident, and it's like, what the hell? And then Zen or something, the alien world has been fucking ripped through into your world, and all the aliens are getting like deposited. It's like, what the shit? Then you have to go to their place, which is a shit part of the game, and basically like sort the problem out, and then it's kind of okay. But then Half-Life 2 took it from this game where it was just almost this like little self-contained thing like in a factory to suddenly everything's changing. The Combine, and the aliens, and the story really developed, and it was something that was never done before. Like now, you can say it's a decent story because honestly, you go and play it now, it's not going to blow you away. But at the time, there was nothing like that, and it was like, whoa, this is pretty good.
That's fair.
That was the thing. I don't know. Like I just think like look, end of the day, Valve showed their colours with the mod situation, the paid mods, how they dealt with that situation. They only do things or take evasive action if they are losing money. Because guess what, guys? They're a fucking business, and that makes a shitload of money comparatively compared to what they do. Because how many employees does Valve have? Probably not that much, considering how much money it fucking generates. It's not like, some sort of super corporation.
Person, so.
Yeah. It's not like Amazon, is it? With like fucking loads of people. Okay, Amazon's like a different planet, but it's not a massive business. It's It's a tech business. It's small and it makes a shitload of money. And why would you ever endanger that?
Yeah, it's just it
And
wouldn't be
when it
worth
is
it.
endangered, they deal with it quick.
Yeah, I I don't think we're going to see it. I'd be very surprised if we did. And I think if you kind of think about it without, if you take the rose tinted glasses off and think about it, then you might not come to exactly the same conclusion, but you might find yourself wondering a bit more as to whether the hope for Half-Life 3 is actually worth it or not. So we're going to move on, and this has been a bit of an unfolding drama over the last few days. This is Razer who says it will pay what Ouya
Oh yeah.
owes to indie devs. Now, what's happened here is that Razer has bought Ouya, the vastly
Oh
successful,
yeah.
the absolute failure that is the little tiny Android console. However, there's been problems. There's been a problem here. As it says, Razer will make good on more than $600,000 in funds potentially owed indie developers as part of Ouya's Free the Games initiative, the company's CEO tells Polygon. I wish you didn't have to use Polygon for this, but he talked to them, so we had to. Only a quarter of the developers promised matching support for their indie games as part of the $1 million Free the Games fund received all of the money owed. Another quarter of the 27 developers received some of the money. The rest, it appears, were left with none of the promised funds. Earlier this week, Razer announced that it had acquired ownership of Ouya's software, online store and name, but not its hardware. Razer CEO Minliang Tan, who is currently travelling to the China Joy Game Show, told Polygon in a call this afternoon that he first heard about the issues revolving around the Free the Games fund and the owed money about midnight in Taiwan. He spent the next 3 hours, he said, sorting out the details with his team and the people still at Ouya. Tan said that while he was aware of various marketing initiatives, including the Free the Games fund, he didn't realise there was an outstanding debt. We only acquired the team, the platform and the assets of Ouya. We didn't look at the debts because that's not how the deal was structured for us. So essentially what happened is Ouya owes developers a load of money. Ouya don't have any money because it's the Ouya. No one has one.
Oh yeah.
No one bought it. No one cares about it. It's completely irrelevant. Which makes it weird that Razer
More
grabbed
people
it to
owned an
begin with.
OnLive console.
I know, how bad is that? OnLive lasted like a year. Is OnLive still a thing?
No. It was bought and then
When did
dismantled.
it shut down? I want to know when it shut down. I'm going to have a quick look. But yeah, because I remember we did an unboxing for that. Because we got it from Eurogamer, I want to say, 3 years ago.
Probably more.
Might have been
Shocking
4.
bag of bollocks.
It was a long time.
It was just a little
defunct
router.
April 30th, 2015. Patent sold to Sony Computer Entertainment. So, yeah, effectively, Ouya was a collapse, right? It's a failure. It didn't work. No one had it. More people had OnLive, and that capitulated ages ago. Razer has bought it for whatever reason. They've not bought the hardware, but he just says they bought the name, the brand, the software, etc., etc. There was nothing in the deal between Razer and Ouya that said that Razer had to actually pay the developers anything. That's not how the deal was structured. They didn't take on any debt, effectively. But because Razer is very good at PR, because that's what this is,
That's all this is. So I was about to jump in. Yeah.
because Razer is very good at PR and they know how to make people happy about Razer, they have stepped up and said, well, okay, it turns out that actually people were owed money. We don't have to give you any money. We're not legally required to do so, but we're going to anyway. We are going to honour the debt that Ouya has, and we are going to give people what they're owed. Very clever by Razer. I was going to say it's unnecessary, but I suppose in a way it's not, because if they have any plans to actually use the Ouya name, the brand, they kind of need to clean the slate. Although I actually would not be at all surprised if it disappears. Honestly,
I find it weird that they bought this because
Well,
you know what? All it is a
yeah.
little Android box, and then it must be because of the marketplace they've got. Because oh yeah, it's got like a little app store thing. It's got right like a Google Play Store, but it's like an oh yeah specialized one.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure what they're going to do, right? That I'm sure that's the only reason they've bought this company is for that, not for the box or anything. Because to make like a small Android box is going to cost nothing. Right, Razer
Yeah.
could have that made. Razer have hardware made. They could have that made, right? I'm sure Razer's even got little things like that anyway. And they're going to hit China. They're just going to say this
Yeah,
is a super cheap box that's 10 quid or something, and it's sold to China. The market of China is immense. It's
Yeah.
massive. You can't sell them expensive things, but you can sell them cheap things, and billions will buy them. Well, maybe not billions.
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions will buy them, and then suddenly Razer could be the Steam of China because they don't want to. It's a different culture, isn't it? I don't think they're going to sit down. I mean, we know they like to play Dota, so maybe not
Yeah,
a Steam killer. But you know what I'm saying? Like they I guess they like. I don't know, maybe puzzle games more, or like a little stupid game. Who fucking knows? But a little
that's
crappy
exact.
Android box could provide that. It's really dirt cheap. They plug it into their telly. The market is huge. You become the one who controls the flow of games to these people. You make a load of money. So 600 grand to just pay off some people and however much they paid
Yeah,
for.
that's
This is nothing.
that's effectively exactly what they're doing. They're
That's the
going
only thing
to
I can see this is for.
yeah. Well, there's actually another article that is linked from the first one, and even the headline is "This is why Razer bought Ouya." Hint: China. So I'm just going to
Right,
switch
it's
over
not hot.
to the
It's,
desktop again, but they essentially, by the look of it, they're kind of interested in doing like an Android TV thing. They've already got something called Forge TV. It's its own
Forge TV.
it's its own Android-based console that Razer has.
Yeah, I thought they
And
had their own console thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and as it says down here, we're going to amp it up, open all Ouya games to Google Play and the boxes in China. So while some Ouya games are already available in China through the Xiaomi Mi Box and Alibaba's Tmall Box, Tan said that with Razer's broad connections in China, the company will be able to greatly expand the reach of developers publishing games through Ouya. He also plans to open all of Ouya's games to both the Mi Box and the Tmall Box. The Ouya store will eventually be relaunched as Cortex for Android TV, an
Yeah.
online store for Razer Forge TV games and other
Yeah.
content. And the
That's why.
company will also publish Android TV content and Android-based TV console games under the Ouya name. So actually, it looks like they are going to keep the Ouya name. But yeah, that's effectively what it is. It's a mass expansion. Well,
Yeah, because you had the thing where consoles are you can now buy like an Xbox One and whatever in China, but
yeah,
like that means that just literally makes no difference to that market. They're not going to buy that because they're already buying these little set-top
yeah,
box things.
yeah.
Why
Not
would they
interested.
spend and also the cost of those consoles is insanely expensive to what their disposable incomes are in China. Yeah, a
Yeah,
little box, way better.
and you have to admit, regardless
I
of
mean,
whether you like Razer, they're
think of it
very
this
good at
way,
branding and very good at advertising. So
and,
they'd be able
and a
to
lot
make a
of
massive
people.
impact.
Well, the whole thing of Razer is advertising, isn't it? Because they're only
Yeah,
selling like cheap shit, really, for a lot of money. This 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 just puts into perspective the size of China. Any Germans watching this, right? There are 88 million members of the Communist Party. Well, the people. It's not the Communist Party. It's the People's Party. The Communist Party in China.
yeah,
88 million members of that party. I think it's the People's Republic, whatever. They're not fully communist. You know what I'm trying to say? The
yeah.
political party, there are 88 million members. That is more than your entire country's population. It's
It's
also more than the UK's population and a lot of other countries.
yeah.
That shows you this. I mean, I know they're
The
not
potential
particularly
market
members of
is
parliament, but imagine 88 million MPs. It'd be like, what?
yeah.
The
It's
size
it's
is immense.
it's
China
a
is immense.
vast market, and Razer, as it said in the article, they do have the connections to do this. They've got, they've had tie-ins with pretty much every major franchise on Earth, and they can, if if Razer approached you and said, we want to put this on Ouya and ship it to China, you just go, yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's what you do. You just do that straight off. So, but yeah, it's as always with everything with Razer, it's a nice thing to do. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still good for the developers to get paid what they're owed because, no one wants to work for free, and not getting what you should be getting is a really shitty situation. They didn't have to do it, but of course it is a very good PR move, and the end result is they get more publicity, and the people who want money for work done get money for the work they've done. All around a nice positive. So one other thing, this is made me laugh a bit. So people have been complaining, but sorry, Bethesda can't make any Fallout 4 Pip-boys. So this article, I didn't even understand why this was a thing.
Oh, can't make any more. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. The special edition of Fallout 4 comes with a pretty spectacular piece of swag, a real-life Pip-boy that works with your smartphone. Understandably, the $120 bundle sold out almost as soon as it went on sale, but as much as the game's publisher wanted more of your cash, it's admitted that it simply can't make any more. Bethesda's Pete Hines has told GameSpot that the factories that produced the device were working at full tilt, but simply couldn't fit more manufacturing runs into their production schedules. Heinz also moved to dispel the notion that the company only made a few thousand of the accessory in order to generate interest. As far as he's concerned, we made a shitload of Pip-boys, and we went back and made more, eventually producing more of these things than we did for any collector's edition we've ever done, ever. That said, we'd like to think that the folks over at ThinkGeek are watching demand for Pip-boys with interest, since if there's any firm capable of giving fans what they want, it's them. So this kind of... This made me laugh when I saw it, principally because on the face of it, if you're a massive Fallout fan, it's like, yeah, the idea of having your own Pip-boy is kind of cool. I'm happy to accept that. But firstly, it's a special edition. It's like a limited edition thing. It's an exclusive. It's like you pay this much, you get the thing, and it's for the super fan. Firstly, I want to know now how many super fans are out there that they didn't make enough $120 bundles for people to buy, because that is a lot of money, isn't it? Let's face it, $120.
Oh yeah, for a bit of plastic.
It is literally just a piece of plastic that you put around your wrist and you slot your phone into. That's it. There's no hardware involved. Yeah. Like, you supply your own phone. That's the other thing as well. It's not even as though like,
you can use an iPhone
screen
as well.
Yeah, you can't use anything but an iPhone. So people have been sitting there going, this isn't fair. I wanted one. I wanted the $120 piece of plastic that my iPhone sits in. Why couldn't you make more?
Why weren't you there as soon as they were announced ordering them then?
Well, I just this just staggered me.
Collector's editions do my head in anyway. I like them, and I can get why you would want a collector's edition. So I can relate to why people would want this. If you're a big fan of the series, you'd be like, wow, that's kind of what I want. But Fallout 4. But Loot Crate, I've got a special Loot Crate coming out, a Fallout 4 Loot Crate. It's the first time I've seen this happen. This is like it's endorsed by Bethesda. It's like actually a thing. You know, like, we're probably going to see more of this going forward in the future. It's probably like a Call of Duty Loot Crate and all this shit coming out. But knowing that Fallout 4 was going to be massive, anyone could tell you it's going to be massive, even if it's a shit game. It's just going to sell like a crazy thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what their run would have been for this. I mean, I do know, like, in terms of manufacturing, if you were to have something built, you don't, like, factories make stuff all the time. Like, you'd have to get, like, I mean, what is this? It's like some sort of plastic thing with probably a little bit of electronics in it, so it plugs into a phone or something, some sort of phone interface on it. A factory is contracted to produce X amount of units, and it will gear up, make the units, and then suddenly it's got another contract from another company, and it makes their shit, and it makes other shit, and it makes other shit. Factories, you can't just walk up to them and go, excuse me, we ordered 10,000 of these, but we need another 10,000. They'd go, well, I'm sorry, we're booked for the next 13 months, so come back then. And they'd be like, what? And there's only so many factories that can make this stuff. That is how it works. Like, unless they were going to pay a shitload to screw up their production schedule, which would then mean that they wouldn't make any money on these, and it would be a pointless business thing. That's kind of how it works, like with large scale production like that. You need to, like, if you're having something made, you need to know how much you need, and then you have it made, because the factory will work out all of like the cost of the production, which obviously is going to be nothing compared to the unit price you're going to sell it for. But you don't get that figure right, then suddenly, well,
do you reckon they just underestimated how many people would be mentally enough to buy a piece of plastic sleeve?
I bet you they overestimated, but didn't realise that it will be even more than that. I bet that's what they did.
Like, they produced like more than they thought they'd need, on the basis that they can afford to overstate it a bit, like get more than they needed. And then and then, like, apparently everyone alive has tried to buy one at this stage.
But this is literally the best thing you could do for a collector's edition for this game. It is like the best. It's like, hey, a Pip-boy. What? It's like, excuse me. I mean, yeah, you got to put your phone into it, but I mean, it works with the game as well. This is the thing. It's like, you can, like, I mean,
admittedly,
they're going to sit there and do that. It's very shit, but they might do for the a bit.
There's going to be a whole load of people who they've ordered their Pip-boy edition, and then it's gonna turn up. They're going to slot the phone in. It's going to be on their arm like that. Like, what's the play? And they're going to sit there, and they're going to suddenly decide they need to look at their inventory, and they're going to go. They'll do it for like 3 days, and then they'll eventually think, this plastic thing weighs a fucking ton. My iPhone weighs a ton, and it's strapped to my arm, and every time I want to look at the inventory, I've got to lift the massive plastic thing and the massive phone up to my face and touch it. and I look like a fucking idiot, and it's irritating, and they're going to get rid of it. Because even like, I know you can do the inventory on just your phone anyway. I think, didn't they say that was for iPad, iPhone, and Android? So like, I can have the inventory
Yeah, it's just
app
like
on.
an app. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm going to play Fallout 4. I'm not going to use this to look at my fucking inventory, because you know what? I've got a massive computer screen here. I mean, compare this, right? Compare this to I think that's a 26 or something inch screen here. That, not as big as that. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use that to look at the inventory, because that's like a much better system for it. It just, I don't think I know people like their special editions and their collector's editions and so on. And I have seen before where people have been like, it's sold out, that's kind of crappy. I don't think I've seen before where so many people have asked why they can't buy the special edition that someone's had to say, look, we made fucking loads of these and we can't make any more. And we made a load of them, more than anything we've made before, and we still didn't make enough. I don't think I've ever seen that happen. And I can't tell whether it's just because it's Fallout 4 and therefore, you know, people like Fallout series, you know, it's got really hardcore fans, or whether it's just the fact that actually having that Pip-boy, regardless of how much use it's going to get, which is going to be nothing because people are going to stick it on the shelf and go, oh, look at my Pip-boy. I mean, that was just a work of genius, effectively, wasn't it, really? To be honest. Of all the things they could have picked, they could have given you a little statue of the Pip-boy himself with his little blue Vault-Tec thing.
I'm sure they did that before in like a lunchbox it was, and he was like a little bobblehead.
Was that for Fallout 3, maybe?
Something. It's like when you look at like there's a collector's edition for Lords of the Fallen. It's got a big bust of the guy's head, and it's really detailed and it looks really nice. But it's like you don't care because it's like that. You just don't care. You know. I think of imagine like a collector's edition of Half-Life 3, and it came with like a Gordon's crowbar or something. Be like shit, you know, or like a complete replica of the gravity gun thing. Like it'd be like holy shit, or a Portal 3 collector's edition with the gravity gun. Those are like collector's editions which just go, oh god, people are gonna buy them. You know what I mean? Like like Batman collector's edition come out. It's like a statue of Batman. It's like okay, and a little Batmobile. Okay, it's like whatever. If it came with a functioning utility belt with batarangs you could chuck out, it'd be fucking quality. You know what I mean? It'd be like wow.
Well, like a fully detailed, scaled mod of the Batmobile. Much though I hate the Batmobile in the game, it looks awesome.
Scale model.
Like
yeah. No, I thought you meant like to scale, like
no, small one.
That would be the ultimate one. They wouldn't a fucking Batmobile, like a $500,000 collector's edition Batmobile with a jet engine in the back.
Like do you remember the was it Dead Island? I think it might have been Dead Island. That shit game where they had the survival edition that they did with another company that was like $10,000. And it came with a stupid
surviving
hut,
or some shit,
like an anti-zombie hut with like bits of metal all over it, and like a year's worth of canned food and all that shit. That's idiocy. That's stupid. Don't do that. No one bought it. No, we know no one bought it. First of all, Dead Island was shit, and secondly, it was just a stupid publicity thing. No one cared about the game. No one cared about the shit special edition. Do stuff like this. I mean, as they've said, they've made like all of them. And they've all been sold out, and they can't make any more, and people still want them. Just make it something cool and iconic. Because you can get, the fact is, there are companies where you can get like a sculpt of Batman from anywhere now. Like, there's enough businesses with 3D printers that could make that for you. There are enough places online where you can there's like that place where you could get your World of Warcraft character printed and sent to you.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff you can just do now.
You know what? You can go into ASDA, bloke, and have yourself 3D printed now.
Why? What, like your actual just...
Yeah, you go in and you stand in the scanner and it scans you and it asks you what level you want, and then you pay, and then you go home and it gets fucking delivered to you a few days later.
A statue of yourself?
Yeah, or anything. You can put like a dog in there.
I've got it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, there you go. You're as the mini me. I'm gonna fucking send you a link, bloke. When it loads. There's even a video. You ready for the link, boy?
I'm ready. I've switched over to the desktop.
Look. Create mini me models of you and your family at fucking ASDA.
This is ridiculous. Okay, so I'm gonna.
But they're quite good quality, like they're not shit.
That's just insane to me. That I mean, 3D printing wasn't even a thing not that long ago, and now you can go to ASDA and get yourself 3D
Yeah,
printed. It's like,
instead
what?
surreal. It's like I've gone to ASDA, mate.
I've gone to ASDA and now I've got a scale model of myself that they sent me in the post.
I want one of these. How much are these? Oh my fucking god! Watch the video above. Look out for one of our 3D scanners. See full tour details. No, there's one I think in Coventry. We're going on a road trip. Here we go. Choose your model. A child. No, we're not a child. An adult. Right. 60 quid, bloke. 59 quid. But it says, would you like to dress yourself up in like futuristic armour or something? 120 quid.
What? You can have like... they get
an adult and a
Asda's
baby.
own armour.
95 quid. Yeah, as the armour. Like, every little fucking counts, baby. Oh my god.
That's ridiculous. That is absolutely
there you go.
Just mad.
As the 3D me, that's what it's called.
I forgot to get rid of the go away Skype. I apologise there, ladies and gentlemen. You saw an ASDA link. Right. That's what a way.
Angry man's face.
What...
maybe you didn't see an angry man's face. I don't know.
It was just like gas links all over the place. What a way to finish Hotfix. If you want a scale model of yourself, go to ASDA. Apparently they've got the technology. They can build it. They have the technology. This video is still playing in the background. I've got another monitor. I'm going to stop now. Absolutely mad. As always,
like
as we
paint them.
Well, you got it properly.
I'd paint my own, man. I got the shit. Got the technology here for that.
Give yourself like crazy face paint.
Gold.
A golden statue of yourself. I want a golden statue of myself. That's quality. I would absolutely have that. As always, thank you for watching. If you want to support Hotfix, as we said at the start, link there. That was a bit, it's like over there somewhere. And there. You'll get a shout out at the start of the next Hotfix. Thank you if you supported before this one. Thank you if you decided to support
Yes,
after
thanks,
it.
guys.
Come back on Saturday, 2 PM for the pubcast, which is always a thing of delight and wonder. And if you don't watch it, you really should, because it's awesome.
Delectable magnificence,
like everything else
distilled
we do.
into
So
pure win.
what we're going to be? It's going to be. Is it the 11th? Because we've had the 10th. Because we had the tantalising 10th.
Yeah, so I've got something planned. Don't you worry.
Oh well, you've got to come back on Saturday to hear what that is. Then we will see you next time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching.
Bye bye.